So we are all here to stress the importance of the customer experience for the touch points that your businesses have. And we're going to discuss about the winning strategies that drive a better user experience, specifically to the customer service. Before we dive into the content, I'm going to introduce myself and also my colleague Sebastian, which is here with me co-hosting this webinar today. I'm Giulia Stefani, Director for the user experience on Ipsos Switzerland. I have extended experience in UX research and specifically in industries like e-commerce, banking, and also B2B. And I'm here with Sebastian Tavera, which is UX operations lead from LATAM, with more than 3 years experience in Ipsos. Sebastian has a UX research experience and also experience in interaction design with digital and conversational channels. So it makes him a perfect co-host for me today. So let's discuss about the content of this webinar. We decided to structure this webinar with 3 main blocks. First of all, we are going to speak about the macro trends that make us really think that the customer support is a key focus, should be a key focus for companies nowadays. We're going to discuss these trends and also the consequences that these have on different behaviors and customer expectations. Second, we are going to discuss different building blocks of a customer support strategy and tell us what is our point of view on the key areas on which companies should probably focus nowadays. And third, we are going to go more in depth, more in the precision of UX tips, touching a little bit on different customer support touch points and what you can think about to improve each touch point. To start, let's see what are the macro trends that suggested really the importance of this topic that we are touching on today. The trend number 1 that we want to stress is that the omnichannel is becoming convergent. What does it mean? The convergent channel are basically the concept of being convergent for a channel is the idea that users are shifting their behaviors and are moving from a behavior that starts online and can switch very rapidly to offline, but also vice versa. Users expect very quickly and smoothly and seamlessly to move from online to offline, in-store, and online very easily and smoothly. So this translated in the e-commerce, for example, as you can see on the chart on the slide. Those are some behaviors that users adopt in e-commerce. One example is that, for example, the 41% of customers are actually starting a purchase online and then picking it up either on curbside pickup or pickup in store. This is a behavior that shows the convergence of channels. And the same behavior translated for industries in the service base, like finance or banking, insurance, is the behavior of users that actually move very rapidly from getting information online, maybe contacting a customer service, discussing with an assistant, and also at the end moving back online and continuing the customer journey online. So this means that in terms of behavior, the purchase journeys ultimately are actually becoming less linear. They move from one channel to the other. And as a consequence, also the expectations for the customer service is really that users expect to be able to interact with more than one channel, to move from one channel to the other more easily, and also expect to have a personalized assistance. We know, for example, that 70% of consumers think that and expect that when they log into a chatbot or into a customer service to discuss with a representative, they expect the company to have the full contextual information of their problem, what happened, and their purchase journey. So we can claim that users actually want and expect this behavior from company. And also, of course, they expect a more personalized service. The second macro trend we're going to discuss about is the digital transformation and what this digital transformation means in terms of enhanced capabilities for self-managed channels and also assisted channels. Just to recap, or not to recap, but to explain, self-managed channels are those channels where users are basically finding and scouting the information by themselves. Assisted channels are those channels where a user expects to eventually be able to discuss with a real person and have a more personalized assistance. So the digital transformation in both these types of channels makes so that those self-managed channels are actually becoming more important to drive operational efficiency. And we see that organizations are actually turning to self-service channels and to technology to resolve the high volume of calls that happen toward the customer service and to the call centers. So an example in this, in the case just of the insurance industry is nowadays the insurance industry is using chatbots more and more for those pre-purchase parts of the customer journey, because those phases of the journey are those ones that require a little bit more automated tasks, for example, in terms of providing marketing content or calculating offers, calculating price, preparing the final documentation. They are using a little bit less chatbots during the purchase, or especially in the after purchase. Yet we see that these enhanced capabilities are actually driving and changing the ways users are interacting with the whole business at the end. So to continue on this, the top cited areas of where customers are actually, where businesses are investing in terms of customer care is the usage of technology to improve the digital capabilities of the channels, automating those manual activities in the contact centers, as we saw, for example, in the insurance industry, those pre-purchase phases, and also building out advanced analytics capabilities, those capabilities that basically are useful to improve the channels and also to teach a channel like a chatbot and have a channel improving actually over time because of the digital AI capabilities of the channel. So we see that customers are actually investing more, and almost 2/3 of leaders actually report an improved self-service channels as a key driver that decreases the volumes to the calls to a customer service. So it seems this digital transformation is really having an impact on how businesses are conducting, developing the relationship with the customers. The third macro trend we are going to examine is the fact that nowadays the customer support is actually becoming a main competitive differentiator. What do we mean by that? We know that around 83% of consumers mention that the customer support is one of the most important factors when selecting a product. This outside product and price. And we know that companies that invest on the customer experience, they expect to have a return on investment. Where is it that you need to look for when you are seeking a return on investment? You should look for retention. So count that you should consider that 50% of consumers are apt to switch to a competitor only after one bad experience. So you should pay attention to try to retain instead the customers by investing in the customer experience. Another key pillar is the share of spend, because customers would choose a company more often and spend more on the same company if the company proves to have a good customer service. return on investment happens in operational efficiency and also on advocacy. An example for operational efficiency I wanted to quickly discuss is the Amtrak and how the Amtrak improved the experience with the customer service, actually through a chatbot that led to an return on investment 8 times higher than what it was expected. And on top of that, users, per each booking of a trip, users had the tendency to spend 30% more. So you can see that at the end, the return on investment is really tangible. I will now leave it to Sebastian to speak about the next chapter.
Thanks, Giulia, and everyone for being here. Here we will be talking about some very important aspects of the customer support strategy. Next, according to what Giulia mentioned, providing good service in all channels is a very important factor in improving customer satisfaction and advocate rate. Also, one of the factors that has the greatest impact on a good service in the first contact is the first contact solution. As you can see, currently the average in B2B, in B2C industries is very high, especially in the most frequent queries in assisted channels, which are the easiest to solve. This shows that we have a great opportunity to maximize efficiency in assisted channels by improving the user experience of self-service channels. Next. How should we plan to improve the user experience in our self-service channels to address the solution of frequent queries in assisted channels? First of all, we should identify the problem. And for this, you should map the needs that can be solved in first contact and determine the potential for self-management. Secondly, understand the users and define channels. Define channels to best support all customers' profiles, understand better the preferences and skills to use the self-service channels, and select the correct profiles for each channel. Also, provide self-help, identifying useful information to build answers to needs in self-service channels. And finally, empower assistants with proper training and procedures. Next, please, Giulia. In the first contact solution, in your assisted channels, is close to the 70%. This will eventually lead to great efficient benefits by using this strategy. So now, how should we prepare the information for self-service channels to deliver clear, effective, and fast solution to frequent user queries? You can start by taking a sample of assisted channel interactions. For instance, calls, chat, and social media interactions. And from there, identify the symptoms reported by users in a natural language. It could be useful to use artificial intelligence tools. Otherwise, you will have to analyze a lot of information. Then make a list and prioritize the symptoms that will have a high impact in the self-service, determine together with a company products and service expert the context in which they are presented and write a solution for each one of them. Based on a Forrester study, this strategy has helped many companies to reduce response times in self-service channels by 20%. And if we were to take the same strategy to the knowledge base of contact center agents, it might perhaps have a great impact in that, improving responses times and therefore the efficiency of all assisted channels. Next, please. So how should we bring support content to all service channels to deliver homogeneous, consistent, clear, and effective solutions? Simple describe, create a centralized knowledge base with articles containing answers to each symptom and context related to the customer's problems, interconnect the knowledge base with all channels to ensure consistency, coherence, and accuracy of responses. This will avoid pivoting in interactions between channels and increase efficiency by reducing interactions caused by pivoting. So use SEO content strategies to generate user traffic to the articles. This could allow monetization during the reading of this and could be implemented by using call to actions, which should be placed in those articles with the highest volume of queries to leverage the commercial goals. Next, please, Giulia. In the following block, we will be sharing with you some UX tips for some of the most important touch points. Next. Next, Giulia, yeah. At this point, you should keep in mind the following recommendations for UX. Ensure for the first one is ensure that the title of the article is named with the same words that the customer expresses the symptom. This facilitates the association of the need with the article that has the solution. Write a summary that indicates what article solves and thus prevents the reader from continuing reading. This gives speeds and generates certainty in the self-service process. The other one is that make each context visible in UX UI patterns, such as accordions, to avoid scrolling down in the reading process. This will generate the perception of something easy and quick to use. So this structure will also help service agents to improve the speed and quality of service, avoid future contacts for the same query, and reduce training costs, and among others. The next, please, Giulia. Okay. All things considered, a support contact-based should have a proper taxonomy that enable access to all possible touchpoints in one place. You can see this in the center of the image at the top of the screen. So provide different ways of access to the articles and their content. In the picture at the top of the page, we have a search engine to search for the desired articles, a support menu with different options located on the left side, and a central menu with quick links that go directly to information of a usual query. Categorize the content in a logical, clear, and a friendly way. In the same picture at the top of the screen, in the left menu, we see the content categorized and grouped by type of problems. And next to it, the quick links menu differentiating access to different service channels that let you know easily its purpose. Allow a simple and a clean navigations is very important, that recommendation, free of commercial content or other purposes different from the service. And finally, indicate to the user where they are in their search process. In the picture at the bottom of the screen, you will be able to see that once the users start their navigation in the support menu, they can see the category where they are at the same time they are reading the article. And next, please, Giulia. And now I leave you with Giulia for the next UX tips.
Thank you, Sebastian. So let's discuss now about chatbots. First of all, why do we discuss about them? We think for all of you in your business, you should probably consider or have a strategy related to chatbots and AI. And because we know that users, especially the younger generations, are starting to become more and more open to the discussion with chatbots. We are not saying that it should eventually replace human. On the contrary, we are not yet there. We'll see what the future reserves for us. But yet, we would like to give some UX tips related to this powerful tool. The first tip you should keep in mind is the transparency. we see that some businesses don't always disclose to their customers that they are actually discussing with a chatbot. And this may cause a lot of frustration on customers that think are going into a channel to discuss with an assistant, with a real person, and in reality what they do, they discover that it's instead it's a bot and probably cannot even answer to all the complicated questions that they have. So we suggest to use proper naming and also proper introduction to express what the chatbot can and cannot do, so the users are more in line with the expectations, with the experience they're going to have. We also observed the users appreciate the speed of the chatbot, and therefore, if they know that they're interacting with the chatbot, they tend to adopt two main behaviors. One is that they simplify the conversation using a little bit less formal language and less polite language, and this saves them some time. So the conversation is more precise and more has more efficacy. And on the other side, users tend to think twice to the keywords that they're going to use to express their needs and to express their problem and their issue. And this actually is making an interaction way more powerful than just going into a chat without knowing exactly with whom you're talking about. So in the slide that you have in front of you, you can see two examples from on the left from Swisscom and from Post Finance of chatbots that are actually very open and transparent in expressing what they can do, what they cannot do, and even giving heads up in the sense of telling users that eventually, if the users don't reach the answer to their queries, they will be put in line with the real customer assistant. And instead, the examples on the right, they show a little bit some buttons that create some confusion of users that express confused feeling about who they're going to talk to, and they even express some miscontent in using the messenger as a way of chatting with the representative, just because they are concerned about their privacy and their data. The second tip that we want to share with you is really to try to make life easier for the users. What does it mean? The interaction with the chatbot can happen through multiple input types, and you should consider all of them depending on the type of chatbot you're implementing. First of all, we know that using predetermined links and buttons will save users from typing, therefore will save time. And we also know that these links can eventually become very rich in terms of images and experience, because they can be transformed into carousel, into other, let's say, more advertisement content. So the small interface of the chatbot can actually become very rich. At the same time, we suggest to keep the free text and open the possibility for users to type freely, because this action actually makes so that users are typing freely questions. They can move away from the script of the chatbot, and especially if the chatbots are infused with artificial intelligence and with natural language processing, the chatbot can actually learn from this interaction and learn new keywords and learn how the users, what keywords users are using to define their problem. Last but not least, we want to discuss about a tip that really applies to all the different support channels. Overall, we suggest to really capture those opportunities that are presented at the end of the interaction. The end of interaction is a key to have a successful response to the customer query. So in this case, if a chatbot, like in Blueberry, if the chatbot is not able to answer and to understand what the user wants, the chatbot should lead to another channel and create an easy transition to a real customer service representative. Another opportunity that presents itself at the end of the interaction is the possibility to get feedback. So ask for feedback about how the interaction went. And this applies for chatbots, but also for all the other channels. Were the users happy? Were they able to find what they were looking for? What other suggestions would they give? These are all questions that are actually able to enrich the takeaways from the business point of view, that can actually learn and lead to continue improvement of these of each channel. And also in case of chatbots that are infused with AI, these can actually learn from the interactions that were successful. A third opportunity to capture at the end of the interaction is the possibility that the user continues on their purchase journey. In this case, it's really about not leaving the user there, like hanging and not without a conclusion, but rather bringing him back to the product page, or suggest that the user continues and go through with the purchase by helping him with the purchase by credit card, etc. So these are all small actions that can lead the user to continue and finish and monetize also monetize the purchase journey. So we are going to conclude the webinar with these tips. And just before we end, I'm going to recap very quickly about what is it that we discussed. So we saw those macro trends that actually are pushing and that tell us that the customer support is actually becoming more and more important. We saw that convergent channels are bringing consequences into users' behaviors. We saw that the digital transformation is continuing to act upon the different channels, and companies that want to stay on the edge should actually think about and have a strategy for their channels. And we saw also that the customer support is nowadays a competitive differentiator that will for sure bring an ROI in case of the investment in it. Then we moved on presenting the key customer support strategies that, in our opinion, are the winning ones to make a strategy very successful. So we discussed about improving self-managed channels as a way to absorb all the volume of calls and the major customer queries, leaving for the customer attendants and the real people to attend only to those queries that require a more personalized assistance and a more specific taking in charge of the customer. We discussed about adopting the customer's point of view to try to match the key topics and the key phrases that customers have in their mind when they speak about a problem, and match those with the solution. So think customer-centric and not solution-centric or business-centric. And we also discussed about designing and maintaining a digital knowledge center and the type of impact it has on avoiding to having repeated and multiple messages that sometimes might be incoherent across different channels. And finally, we gave out some UX tips that you should consider. First of all, about being customer-centric in designing articles and to help users, but also the customer support assistants to find a solution for a user. We discussed about the need for a meaningful taxonomy, again centered on the key problems of customers. We gave out some tips for chatbots about transparency, and also about the variety of interactions that the chatbots can bring into that can offer to customers to better adapt to the customers' behaviors. And final, but not as less important, we discussed about capturing opportunities that happen at the end of the interaction in terms of getting feedback, in terms of continuing the process and the customer journey, and in terms of eventually leading and moving on to another customer support touch point if needed. And this for sure will increase the first contact resolution rate in your company. So this is it for today's webinar. I'm going to thank you a lot for joining and for staying with us today. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to discuss about UX, we are here, so reach out to us. The emails are on the screen. You can, we will be happy to answer you and to be in contact with you. And thank you for joining Sebastian and me for today. Have a great continuation of the afternoon. Goodbye.